And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Howdy everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a little game called Ecosystem. Now this is from Genius Games. Genius Games, their shtick is they make science-themed games. They make excellent science-themed games. People often look at educational games as something to run away from. That's not the case when it comes to Genius Games. Ecosystem is a light drafting game. A drafting game is where you have a bunch of cards in your hand. Each turn you'll pick one and then pass the rest to somebody else. You're then placing these cards in a grid in front of you, trying to score points. There are usually different deviations and variants on these games. This one is extremely straightforward, shown thusly. The game revolves around a deck of cards. That's all the components of the game. And in each of the rounds of the game, you're going to give players 10 cards. You're going to look at your 10 cards, each part. You're going to pick one of those cards, simultaneously place it in front of you, and pass the cards. And you're going to keep doing that till you've placed all 10 cards. Now, as you place these cards, you're going to be placing them in a 4x5 grid. It doesn't really matter when the first card goes out, but once I define it like this, then I'm stuck putting cards in the grid. You keep doing this until the grid is completely filled, so that's 2 rounds of 10 cards each, and then you'll score all the cards. So deer are going to score you points. You get 2 points for each row and each column that has at least one deer. So in this case, my deer would only score me 2 points because it's in this row and this column, or 4 points because I would have 1 row and 1 column. The bears get points if they are next to trout and bees. So 2 points for this, 2 points for this, 2 points for that bee. The bees themselves are 3 points if they're next to a meadow. So nothing for this bee, but this bee gets 3 points for being next to that meadow there. Streams, the largest stream, so I have a stream here of 4, gets 8 points. Second place gets 5. Then we have rabbits. Rabbits are worth 1 point, but when you play a rabbit, you're allowed to switch 2 cards that you've already placed. Eagles get you 2 points for each trout and rabbit that's within 2 spaces, so they can fly and get them. Foxes are 3 points if they're not next to a bear or a wolf. So this fox is 3 points. This one would not be. Wolves, just whoever has the most wolves gets 12, 8, and 4 points. Meadows get you points for connecting them. So 1 meadow by itself is not worth anything. 2 next to each other is worth 3. 5 is 15. And that's pretty much all the different things that are on here. And you're going to score each of them. Oh, dragonflies, I didn't mention them. They get a point for the length of a stream that they're next to. So this one would be worth 4. And the trouts get 2 points for being next to dragonflies and streams. So you're going to count up all these points at the end of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Component-wise, nice score sheet. Each player has a card here that explains how everything scores. It's pretty simple. There's also diversity scoring, having a number of different animals in your thing at the end of the game, or a number of different cards. So if you have greater than or equal to 2 that you're missing of all these, you have 12. It is a little weird that they did it as gaps instead of doing it the other way around. Like if you're missing 6 or more animals, you lose 5 points. Why not just say if you have this many or more? But that's not a big deal. That's pretty much it. The cards are a little smaller than I would prefer. I get that they want these grids to be manageable and be able to be played in front of everybody, but I think slightly larger cards I would have been happier with. But that's really it. The artwork's fine. Maybe if you had put how they scored on the cards themselves, it'd be easier, but when you have these, it's not a problem. Ecosystem is a fine game, although it has a few problems. Now, one of the benefits of the game is it goes to 6 players. The disadvantage of you not playing with 6 players is not every card will be in the game, which makes drafting a little tricky in the sense of I get a stream card, I'm like, okay, I'll go for the longest stream, and there's only one of them. Maybe a few show up over the course of the round. I mean, here they tell you how many cards there are of each one. So, for example, there are 20 stream cards. But if you're playing with only 3 or 4 players, there's a chance there's very few stream cards, but you don't know. You especially don't know on your opening hand. But even after all the cards have been passed around from the different players playing, you still don't know what the second hands will bring. And every game that I've played with a small group of people, there's usually something that's very scarce and you don't realize it. Maybe it's the wolves. And you can win most wolves with 1 wolf. But you don't know that, and that makes the drafting a little trickier. Now, that being said, it's really light. And there are lots of these games out there. One of the best is Sushi Go, and there's games. Here you're putting the cards in a grid, which has been done before. And I think that's where my final thing is. I'm like, yeah, it was fun. It was entertaining, but I didn't feel like I played anything different than I've seen before. And it didn't do it particularly amazingly well, so it feels almost a little forgettable. It's a cool theme, the artwork is neat, the whole ecosystem and the idea is fun, and it's not a bad game to play. I had a good time playing it. It's just that when they're in the world of so many of these drafting games out there, which is certainly one of my favorite mechanisms, this one didn't seem to have any kind of pizzazz to make it stand out, other than the fact that, hey, it's an educational theme that I can talk to people about. And I'm not sure that's enough to propel this one into one that I would recommend people get over the other ones. The ecosystem is a good idea. Putting the cards out is cool. And even if you do play with 6, you still may not get the cards you want. And the drafting never felt so much like, I'm taking this so you can't get it, or that's hate drafting, taking something where someone else can't get it. And it more felt like, I guess I'll take this. And the diversity thing, not that hard to pull off, and felt like almost a tacked on extra scoring thing at the end. So again, the game is fine. I enjoy it. But I wonder if it will ever hit the table again, because it didn't feel either different from other things that are already out there, or even particularly excellent at what it was supposed to do. It's fine, it's good, it's average, I enjoy it, but that's about the end of it. And that's Ecosystem. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment. It's pretty good.